Today I'm joined by an absolute legend, as always, one of my childhood heroes, Mr. Tony Currie, from Edgware Prince to Sheffield King.
Yeah, well, Edgware, 1st of January 1950, yeah.
We're going to take a trip down memory lane, TC. And first and foremostly, your upbringing, Edgware, Hendon area, North London. How did your football education begin?
Northwest London, let's clear that up.
Yep.
Northwest.
Okay.
Cricklewood, brought up in Cricklewood, born in Edgware General Hospital.
Yep.
In the borough of Hendon, which is now the borough of Barnet. But anyway, we cleared that up. I started playing ever since I was just 1 year old, really, playing in the garden with my brother and stuff. And then by the time I was 8 years old, I played for the school team under 11s. So I was 3 years younger than all the others. Head teacher had to ask me mum if I was allowed to play because of my age. Anyway, that was that. And went through all playing for the school teams and the borough of Hendon, and then I went to QPR as a 14-year-old on schoolboy forms and for a year. And by the time it was time to leave school, they decided that I wasn't good enough to be signed on as an apprentice, as what they were in those days. So that was the start of my football.
Now, when you say not good enough to sign as an apprentice, at Queen's Park Rangers, they played you at half-back, and then you went to Chelsea. You had a trial at Chelsea, and they played you at centre-back, didn't they?
Correct, yes. I had I'd started to build in the building trade, a small firm in Cricklewood, and during that 6 months there, before going to Watford, I had four trials for Chelsea on the old Welsh Harp, in Hendon, where that was their training ground. And I was up against these giant centre forwards, and I was just the thing in them days was that when you went for trials for Middlesex boys, London boys, which I did and never got through the first trial because there was that many going through all the schools in London, Middlesex, that they just picked you, all right, you play at right back, you play at left back, and you're not a right back or a left back, so you're not playing in your proper position. And that's what happened with the Chelsea trials. I was centre back and against these, centre forwards that were a foot taller than me.
Now, I've just finished reading your book, The Matador, and I've got to say, it was an absolutely fantastic read. And two of my heroes growing up were Tony Currie and Alan Hudson. And I've got to say, your stories are very similar. Chelsea was your team that you supported as a kid through your uncles. Fulham was the team that Alan Hudson supported as a kid through his dad, living in Chelsea, but being Fulham. And both of you got turned down by the respective club that you both loved, which I find absolutely amazing. But as you've alluded to, that's how things were done in those days.
Yeah, well, I don't know so much about where Uddy's bit really, but it just happens to some people. They get rejected or whatever you want to call it, and other people come through it when they're 21, 22. Like your Ian Hutchinsons and your Cyril Regises and people like that. But it just happens from 15 to 17. You get such a change. I mean, 15 years of age, I'm rejected by QPR. By the time I'm 17, I'm playing for England youth and Watford first team, and a year later, I'm in the top flight with Sheffield United. It's just the way it goes, and that's it.
Now then, Watford years. Wonderful times for you as a young player, scoring a brace on your debut and then scoring 2 hat-tricks. Talk me through those early days and also the car wash for your manager. That wasn't as successful as your playing time.
Well, yeah, well, again, when I got to Watford at 16 years of, just before 16, and Ken Furphy, the manager, decides to give me a 6-week trial, which ended up being 6 months. So I was not signed on officially, but I was working with the apprentices every day as an apprentice, if you like. And it took him 6 months to make up in his mind. And on the day of him making up his mind, and I'm about to sign the forms, me and Mickey Packer, who's a great friend of mine, still is, another apprentice, he was hosing the car, and I was in the driving seat as a 16-year-old inside the grounds, obviously, and I've put my foot on the blooming accelerator, and it's in reverse, and we reverse straight into the railings round the dog track on the Watford pitch. And I had to, George Aiken, it was a brand new Humber Sceptre Gold, the car of the year. It was just immaculate. And George Aiken, the trainer, he said you got to go in and tell him. So I went in and I told Ken Furphy, and he said, one day you're going to play for England. I'll have your first cap. He never did get it, but he was right.
And a great judge of players. You was a central striker, wasn't you? You were a forward in those days. In fact, when Sheffield United spent £26,500 on a young Tony Currie on the 1st of February 1968, you also went to Sheffield as a forward.
I certainly did, yeah. I played in different positions for Watford juniors, etc., and that, and I did score a lot of goals, and then and played up front in the reserves with a Brian Deere, he played at West Ham and that. I think he ended up at Southend, but a lovely, skillful player. I played up front with him, and then Furphy gives me the green light and plays me up front with Terry Garbett. And I scored the 2 goals in a 4-0 win against Bristol Rovers. But yeah, I started for my first 2.5 years. I was a striker, yeah.
And then 10 days later, you scored a perfect hat-trick against Peterborough. And after the game, not immediately after, I believe, but probably the day after, a match ball was presented to you with all the signatures of the players, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's in the cabinet at Sheffield United now, in my own trophy, in our museum. It's in there still with his autographs on it, yeah.
So growing up, TC, who were your first football heroes? Who did you look up to when you was a kid and thought, do you know what, that's who I want to be like when I grow up?
Well, the one and only. Who I supported Chelsea. Who can it possibly be?
James Peter?
Greaves.
Exactly, James Peter Greaves.
James Peter Greaves. I didn't know his middle name, but yeah. Jimmy the Greaves, the greatest goal scorer that's ever lived. And that's a fact. Never mind about all the others who score thousands of goals in rubbish leagues and that. He was playing, he was just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I still keep in touch with his son up here. He lives in Sheffield, and Andy, and I always ask how his dad is and that. Give my love to the greatest. I say, and that was it. Bobby Tamblyn after Jimmy. Frank Blunston, all them. I just remember them all. The Cat, Peter Bonetti. I bought some little green gloves to be in goal at the bottom of the garden. I used to play in goal with me. My brother was at one end, 20 yards apart. It was a lovely little garden we could have, and he'd be Bolton, and I was Chelsea. Bolton was a big team in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, and he was like Eddie Hopkinson when I was shooting at him, and I was Peter. I was. Oh God, what's his name now? I forgot the keeper. Anyway, and he was Nat Lofthouse shooting at me, and I was Reg Matthews before Peter Bonetti. Reg Matthews, that's right. And of course I was Greavesy when I was shooting at him. So and that was it. I mean, Chelsea mad.
Now, Greavesy, you're right, the greatest goal scorer on the planet, bar none. Scored 357 league goals, First Division league goals, at a rate of 0.69, which is truly phenomenal, and scored
It's
goals.
ridiculous.
Yeah, scored goals on his debut wherever he went, even abroad. Greavesy, to this day, I don't think anybody will ever get close to him.
No, and all in the top flight. And he got 100 before he was 21.
Yeah, he
I
did.
don't know whether that's been done since. I'm not sure. It might have been, but I cried my eyes out when he went abroad.
Yeah.
When he left Chelsea, I was what, 10, 11, and I just cried and cried. It was terrible.
Unluckiest and luckiest grounds that you ever played at, TC?
Luckiest and unluckiest. Well, I don't know, but there's grounds I don't like. Newcastle, Villa, West Ham's not been a great place for me. That's Bradley's team. Happy Hammer he is. I've got two son-in-laws. They're both happy hammers, for crying out loud. Blowing bubbles all the time, yeah.
So why not Villa Park? Was that to do with semi-finals?
Yeah, no, I never. I played in 3 semis, all for Leeds.
Yeah.
And they was home and aways in the League Cup and won at Hillsborough. Sorry, any Sheffield United listeners, I've mentioned Hillsborough. I'll get killed. And that was against Man U. So no, Villa just I always found it strange. Villa, Upton Park.
Yeah.
I didn't have great games there, and Derby. I don't know whether it was the closeness of the fans or what. They seemed to be all over you. I don't know. Derby especially, and West Ham was. Perhaps Villa weren't so much. I can't remember so much. I mean, it's a fantastic ground now, Villa, isn't it?
Yeah, just a touch.
You get lucky grounds, you get unlucky grounds, and they're 3 that I can mention that I scored at Man U. I've scored at Liverpool when I was only 18. I scored at Liverpool. We won 2-1 against the great Liverpool team. Stopped them winning the blooming league title that year. We did, and we got relegated. My first season at Sheffield United.
That must have been a strange move for you, going from London to Sheffield, two really, really different cities. But firstly, talk me through that goal, because I believe that you stuck it over Ron Yates' head, run round the other side, and a bit like Pelé, stuck it in the onion bag.
That's right. Just like the 1958 Pelé World Cup goal. Yeah, it was just like that. But although that one went through, my one went through Tommy Lawrence's legs. But it's fabulous. It was at the other end from the Kop, so the other end to the Kop. But we won that game, and we took 3 points off them over Easter, the old 2-point system. 3 points off them, stopped them winning the league that year, and we got relegated. That was my first. I only played 13 games that season because I signed in February, and only played the 13 games to the end of the season, and we got bloody relegated. Ridiculous.
Now, John Harris was the manager, wasn't he, at Sheffield United in those days?
Yeah, captain of the 1955 championship winning side of Chelsea, yeah.
I've listened and read about you. You describe him as a Bill Shankly type, but a little bit more extrovert. Is that a fair analysis of him?
Well, the extrovert bit, that was Shags, not...
Sorry, introvert, perhaps, yeah.
Total introvert. He didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't swear. He, well, not in public anyway. We never saw him do any of that. And, he was a quiet sort of chap, a gentleman, didn't like interviews, hated being on the telly. Not that we were a lot for interviews in those days, obviously, but he was just a quiet, gentle man. But he knew how to get the best out of you. He'd say blemming this and blemming that, and you know when you're in trouble with him, but you wanted to play for him, and he was a lovely bloke.
Now, Currie versus Marsh in the season 69 to 70. You had a little bit of showboating round the corner flag, didn't you? And two of the game's great characters, both you and Rodney.
Yeah, I got a lot of admiration for Rod. You know, I had this affection with QPR anyway,
Yeah.
and he, because it was my local team, 15 minutes from where I live, Cricklewood. But yeah, we just we looked alike a bit. I thought
Yeah, you did.
we played alike a bit, but we just got in the corner and decided to try and nutmeg each other for a bit of fun.
And it went
And
on for some time, didn't it?
well, it just seemed to never end, did it? But and there's me trying to stop him. I'm in our corner area, you know.
Yeah.
And then I put the old V sign fingers up to the crowd, which is perhaps some of them are not with us anymore. Yeah.
But that's what you did then. But you also blew kisses to the Sheffield faithful. I mean, you were the ultimate entertainer. Off the pitch, you would describe yourself as introvert, but on the pitch, you were a maverick, you were an extrovert, you were everything that a football player should be. You walked onto that pitch, that crowd come to see Tony Currie.
Yeah, I was totally introvert and extrovert. My first wife used to call me a Jekyll and Hyde, but there
Yeah.
you go. um, yeah, it was my stage, I suppose. I wanted to show the people how good I was and stuff like that, and I wanted to be the best player on the pitch. And I don't think that's a bad thing to be, to want to be. You know, you don't want. I used to beat myself up if I made mistakes. I'd get angry with myself for a minute or two, and then, and perhaps people would call me. I'd be perhaps in a different world for a second because I'm beating myself up, and they think, "Oh, look at him, he's not bloody running about again," and stuff like that. But I just wanted to do the right thing. But I mean, everywhere I went, I blew kisses to the crowd. That was like a trademark of mine, and it was great. I had great relationships with the crowds wherever I was playing. I mean, Watford was a bit different because I only played the 17 games for them and probably only about 9 at home. So,
You didn't just blow kisses whilst on the football pitch. You sat down and gave kisses as well, didn't you?
First of all, I thought you were talking about sitting on the ball. Yeah, well,
We're going to come to that in a bit because I'm still at the beginning of Sheffield and moving on and going back. But that kiss with Alan Birchnell, because you pretty much replaced Birch, didn't you, at Sheffield United? He'd moved on.
Yeah, that's dead right. He 60, late 67,
Yeah.
he went to Chelsea, and I came early 68. So yeah, I more or less replaced him, and Mick Jones went before that 68 Christmas. Sorry, 67 Christmas, New Year, and them two went, and I came, and yeah, you could say I replaced him. Yeah, but the kiss happened. I think it was 74-5,
Yeah.
something like that, and I think we were defending, and we ended up doing it was like, it really was synchronized. It was, we both tumbled over head over heels. It was, and we both sat there, and he just turned around and said, "Give us a kiss," because we knew each other from playing against each other, and he's a lovely bloke anyway, and so I did. We kissed on the lips, and there was one photographer there, probably made a fortune out of it.
It is sad that the photographer makes a fortune out of it and you and Birch made absolutely zip, which it should be really the other way around. But you did court controversy because it wasn't just the kiss. They were going balmy, weren't they, the public?
Yeah, well, apparently it was. I mean, it was in the papers the next
Yeah.
day, and apparently it was the first ever kiss on the lips in the world ever, and through two footballers, and it got in magazines abroad and stuff like that. But Birchie, he made a few bob out of it for charity, because he used to send me pictures of it, and I'd sign them, and I'd send them back to him, and he'd be raising money for his charities, and he must have made thousands and thousands. He got a bloody MBE or something for all that, and I was bloody signing these things and sending them back to him. But we redid it a couple, if that's the word. It's
Yes.
not, but we did it at Leicester a couple of times because he used to run around the pitch for charity at the end of the season, and I'd go there, and we actually set it up that we kissed again, and we got he made a few £100 out of that, and we've done it again in Sheffield and stuff, and it's all for his bloody charity. It's not mine.
But again, Birch was one of the characters of the game, wasn't he? And another player that when he went on the pitch, he wanted to entertain. We had characters. I think these days we haven't got so many characters, and that's why we love and always love to indulge in those great halcyon days of the 70s with you guys. So you signed on at Sheffield there as a young un, as a forward, and it wasn't until a couple of seasons later that you had a chat with John and says, look, John, I fancy playing midfield rather than up front. And then I guess the blue touch paper of Tony Currie was truly lit.
Yeah, I'd scored 9 goals in my first 6 games for Watford, which is possibly a record. I don't know. I'd love to find out one day. From first ever debut, 9 goals in 6 games, a bit phenomenal, isn't it?
I would say 100% that's a record.
I mean, it was a Jimmy Greaves sort of thing, and I was thinking this is all right. I went to Sheffield United, scored 4 in my first 13 games in my first bit of a season with them, and then the goals just seemed to dry up, and I ended up. I found myself in midfield making goals.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, this is a lot of fun. So that was how it happened. I said to John Harris, I said, look, I think I'll be more useful in midfield. I'm comfortable there. I can dribble and beat players instead of having me back to goal and stuff. I think I can do. Anyway, he said, yeah, all right. Well, let's have a go, and that's how it panned out. And within a year, I'm playing for the bloody full England team in midfield.
SRBMedia.
Now, Willie Carlin is 5'4", by the way. Do you still love Holland? And when did the Greasy Chip Butty song come about at Sheffield United with their faithful?
I don't know about that one.
Do you not?
Don't know. No, okay. No, sorry, I don't know that one. But funnily enough, we were only talking about it. Well, I was in a conversation. Somebody was talking about it the other day, but I couldn't really understand what they were getting at. They were talking about the Chip Butty song.
Yeah.
And I think it was something to do with Shred. He's a great. Well, he's died now, but he was, a big fan, and everybody loved him and everything. And I think this woman and her husband were talking about something like that. But I don't know. Holland, I loved. Holland, I could live there. That's my second place. But I think I'm too old to be going over there now. But I went over there from 15 to when I was 31, 32 every summer for matches and stuff like that. And I just fell in love with the place. It was just fantastic. And Willie Carlin, 5'4", never grew up, that lad.
He was a good player though, wasn't he?
What a man to have next to you in midfield, I tell you. He was another sort of Trevor Rocky, but probably Trev was my roommate. He was a great lad, Trevor. If he weren't on pills, he should have been. He was so hyper. He had a pink piano. He had a blooming brushed nylon velvet type car.
Yeah.
It didn't have metal. It was brushed nylon, velvet, whatever. And he was so eccentric, or whatever the word is. He was a lovely bloke, and he had the smelliest feet in the world. I used to say, get them bloody feet back in the bed, will ya? And he wore hush puppies. I mean, that's the worst things to wear if you got smelly feet. but a lovely man. And him and Willie, I mean, we let Willie go, and he ends up winning a blooming first division championship, didn't he, with Derby?
Yeah. But you had some good players, didn't you, in that Sheffield United team then? You got promoted in the 70-71 season. And ironically, football has a wonderful way of putting things into perspective. That you done it at Watford, didn't you? Against Watford on the 1st of May, 1971. Incredible.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, yeah, I've talked about that a load of times. But, you know, when you get reminded of it, you think, oh, yeah, Watford, my old team. Yeah, well, Stuart Scully, who made my first goal for Watford, what a player he was and all. Another Jimmy, I was going to say there's the English Jimmy Johnston, but Scully was Scottish as well. You know, I mean, how he didn't play for Scotland as well, I don't know. Stuart, he was a great player. Great player. But yeah, he hit the bar when it was 0-0, and I thought, hello, what's going on here? From about 30 yards, Stuart. And then we win the game 3-0 and celebrations. It was great, but it took 3 years out of my career to get back up, 3 seasons to get back up into the top flight again, you know, and Sheffield United should be there, but nobody's got the right, have they?
Absolutely, but you seem to love and revel in the second division, and I suppose as a young un, cutting your teeth and really learning your trade, particularly in that third season of yours as a midfield general.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, the season of promotion was fantastic. I mean, we had some bright games. There was 4 teams that were almost as good as each other. Us, Leicester, who actually went up, and the other 2 were Hull and Cardiff. Yeah. And you know, they all had big strikers like Toshak and that, and I think Cardiff had Clark, big blonde lad, and so on. And you know, we had some right battles, but yeah, it was a great season for us. And yeah, I had a great season, won the Player of the Year award and that for United, and it was fabulous. And then we went on this this winning, well, not getting beat streak, and took it through to the first division in 71-72, and just led the league for the first couple of months. It was brilliant.
And really, until 74-75 season, which was your best, finishing 4 points off the eventual winners, along with Stoke City, we had some great teams, and the league was a lot more even in them days. The season after, you got relegated for the second time, which was quite extraordinary, really, finishing 4 points off and then getting relegated the season after.
Yeah,
mad, isn't it?
Mad. It's just you just couldn't put money on it, could you?
No, you couldn't.
You know, if we 74-5, if we beat Derby won it with one of the smallest totals in the old 2-point league. I think they got 54, 56 points or something, and we were only 4 points, and we finished 6th. If we beat Derby home and away, we win the league.
Yeah.
You know, and then next season we're down by Christmas. We had 4 points, I think, by December the 31st. 4 points. I'm pretty certain that's a fact, because I've seen it so many times, and we just got off to such a bad start, and I think I missed the first 2 games, and I think Furphy blamed me for that, for us having a bad start, because I was sent off or something the season before, and I was banned from the first 2 games. I don't know, but we just got off to a bad start in a rut and couldn't get out of it, and we were down by Christmas. It was ridiculous.
It's absolutely incredible. We've got to talk about Alan Ball and the ball, and also the boot and the laces, because that's just an incredible story, and you wouldn't get that today in the modern game, would you?
No, I think you'd be sent off, wouldn't you? For they'd call it ungentlemanly conduct, but probably taking the doodah, isn't it? Taking the, you know.
Yeah.
Well, we were great mates. He took me under his wing. God bless him. When I got in the England team in 72, and I more or less replaced him in the end. But he was a lovely bloke. person you'd want to invite to dinner. You know, him and Bobby Moore, first two people you'd invite to have if you're having a dinner party. But he sat on the ball. They're 5-0 up at Bramall Lane. He sits on the ball right in front of me, and I clap him. And
To listen to the rest of this podcast, please go to www.patreon.com/SRBmedia, or just follow the links in the description. Thank you.
SRB